Podcasts proudly presents The Broadcasters Podcast, a weekly media commentary talking about traditional and digital media headlines and talking to the content creators out front and behind the scenes. Here is the king of podcasts.
It is time once again for another edition of The Broadcasters Podcast. Thanks for listening in, finding the show, as you do if you're watching it on YouTube, catching it to the podcast, wherever you find it. Thanks for tuning in. Let's go through the lineup of what's going on tonight. Apple taking another crack at online radio. NPR noticing podcasts now are definitely doing better than radio. So does that mean that they need to keep all the radio stations up? Good question. Plus we talk about sex and solitude soaring in mainstream music. We talk about how a couple different singles and albums came out among artists just in the last couple of months during the pandemic, and how they found some really creative ways to keep themselves relevant during this quarantine. Can't say so much for Hollywood. Can't say that so much for people in television and movies. It's not been there. Maybe unless you're watching Netflix or Hulu and watching some of the movies that have come out through that route, but nothing on a cinema screen. And unfortunately for myself, I still can't go see a movie yet at my theater because I have to wait for phase 2 in my county in Florida, in South Florida, to go ahead and open back up so that the second phase of reopening will allow me to go and watch movies. But I have to wait. So I'm not going to get to go to the movie theaters as they open back up tonight later tonight as I record this show early Friday morning. It's unfortunate, but that's what it's going to be. I just hope I get to go and watch Bill and Ted and Tenet and a few other movies that are going to be coming up pretty soon, going into September. That will be nice to do. I'll just have to play some catch-up, I guess. Well, that's how it's going to be. Also, coming up a little bit later on tonight, I will conclude my interview with Jim Costa of Jim Costa Films. We'll talk to him again about all the work he's been doing. Doing a YouTube blog right now talking about videography, filmmaking, and photography, and so much more. We'll talk all about that. Have that second part of that interview. And well, I'm going to be interviewing for you for the next few weeks. It looks like I don't know what I want to do about getting some other interviews scheduled and put into the can, but I might go ahead and do something about that. But I think right now I'm going to see where I'm going to go with just doing an hour long of the show solo like I've done a couple of times, especially when things just really start coming out. At the moment, it's not an overly busy week in the world of broadcasting and media, but we'll talk about it. Music, entertainment, movies, radio, TV, all that good stuff. Let's get started. Apple Music. The most recent headline, I want to get into that first. Rolling Stone put out a story about this. So Apple Music decided to make some changes to their radio stations. And for me, as in the last couple of days right now, I haven't really been looking at where I want to go, where I don't want to just be relying solely on radio. I don't want to be solely relying on Spotify for all my music. I mean, I do, I love Spotify. Don't get me wrong. And TuneIn's fine, but I also want to look at some of the online radio stations, because there's still a part of me that would like to hear radio that still has personality, that has something that kind of attaches and gives you a reason to not just listen to a jukebox of music. I'd like to still see that happen. Like if I ever made the money in the stock market where I can go and buy a radio station of my own and do that, I would absolutely do it. But at this moment, it's just not meant to be. So I'm waiting on it. I'm waiting to see what I can do. So anyway, Apple Music, let me give you the announcement that, first of all, that came from Apple themselves. They decided to go and announce Apple Music Radio. So, not even sure why online radio was an important thing to them, but they decided to go make some different changes. So, a couple days ago, Apple Music One and 2 new stations, Apple Music Hits and Apple Music Country, have been created, featuring exclusive original shows from the world's top music hosts and artists. So, the idea is that Beats One, which has been the flagship global radio station, kind of like their BBC Radio 1, I guess you would say, but not even so much that. They are renaming it Apple Music One, and they're all launching 2 more stations. Apple Music Hits will have everyone's favorite songs from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Apple Music Country speaks for itself. Scroll down to the press release here to what's being said by Oliver Schuster, Vice President of Apple Music, Beats, and International Content. Apple Music Radio now provides an unparalleled global platform for artists across all genres to talk about, create, and share music with their fans. And this is just the beginning. We will continue to invest in live radio and create opportunities for listeners around the world to connect with the music they love. But the problem is, Apple, I'm not an Apple guy, so I can't download and listen to this stuff. And I'm not going to go ahead and sacrifice and spend more money just to get Apple. As a matter of fact, the Apple stores are closed. So to even go look for devices, I'm not going to go that route anyway. But I'm very happy with my Android stuff and my Windows stuff, even though it might not be perfect. But my thing is that Apple wants to do this, and they want to do live radio. Great. But my thing is, I have to always look for it, and I can't listen to it live. And I'm not going to go and look for it on iTunes. I mean, I'm not going to get iTunes on my devices. Like, how am I going to listen to it? There's no way to listen to it, is there? So I see that they actually have it available here, but then again, am I going to be able to go and play it to the point where I can listen to Apple Music One and actually go ahead and be able to go ahead and put it on a device to listen to it? Or I'm going to have to listen to it from my computer, and that's the only place I can listen to it. Is that the best I'm going to be able to get? Let me try to play it real quick. Oh, I have to sign in with my Apple ID to get in. This is crap. Well, let's see if it even opens. Oh, I have to sign up for Apple. I have to sign up for Apple Music, and I got to go through and continue. This sucks. So again, for me to get in to listen to Apple Music, I have to go in and actually set up an account. This totally sucks. Is it even going to play for me? I guess it's not. Oh, there it is. So either which way, I'm not happy about it. And again, I think that I've listened to a little bit of Beats One before and what they do with their shows. I think SiriusXM still beats them on that. So, and also you can easily access SiriusXM as opposed to Apple. That's just where I come from. And for Apple, I don't think anybody listens for them for live music. For whatever reason, I give them credit for trying to make live radio in the market, but I don't see why it does. Now, Rolling Stone asks the question about this. Why does Apple Music still care about radio? In the subhead, they say Gen Z cares less about traditional radio than any previous generation. Apple wants to make it cool again. Okay. So the question was asked to Oliver Schuster, as I just aforementioned. In a virtual briefing, he says, why was Apple focusing on live radio, and did he think live radio's importance would grow in the future? So it's a simple question, but a good one, particularly when you consider Gen Z's growing disregard for AM/FM radio. Now, we know the stories about how the stats are, and Rolling Stone goes through pretty extensively about this. Here's what it is. The 2020 share for your study from Edison Research, Gen Z, age 13 to 24, young boys and girls, spend half their time, 50% less of their audio consumption listening to AM/FM radio compared to other age groups. Millennials, above age 25, spend 10% more of their time doing this, listening to radio on AM or FM. So why would music's leaders of today and tomorrow put so much time and energy into looking to a medium of the past? Well, there's a feeling of opportunity. If done well, a modern music company like Apple could fill the gap. That's what Rolling Stone says. In a study conducted by Jacobs Media Strategies in 2017, surveyors found that one of listeners' biggest reasons for listening to AM/FM radio, after the love of music and the cost-free nature of the platform, had to do with the connection of personalities through the power of local DJs, hosts, and shows. But yet terrestrial radio chooses not to do this. And the way that Apple Music One is going to do this, they're going to have hosts in different markets, and they're going to actually run live DJs throughout the day 24/7. Good. A national station. Or a global station for them. But really, it's what BBC Radio does already. And very well. So Apple wants to do the same thing for online. Is it going to make much of a difference? I don't know. But I really feel like when I look at online radio, BBC really does take the cake. They have, if you look at TuneIn, they have over 1 million listeners or people that subscribe. Not to mention how many people actually listen to their platform on a regular basis. In this study, they said that through the power In a time, Rolling Stone writes, when Instagram live shows and TikToks can easily bring fans into the up close and personal world of artists or influencers, Apple realizes that context is beloved. So artists like Hoppus, Billie Eilish, and The Weeknd are going to get their own radio shows. Again, this is doing what Sirius did. Let's get celebrities driving the format. We don't want to listen to our hosts, or the host, hear people on the show. We want to actually see them. Like, wouldn't you want to see Mark Hoppus from Blink-182, Billie Eilish, and The Weeknd? You want to actually see them in the studio? You don't want to listen to this, all right? Or do you? Just the point. Apple confirmed they would be working on more shows with emerging, lesser-known artists. The latter is not known and could certainly help with the cool factor, given that terrestrial radio has earned a reputation for being behind the curve and more focused on what's already trending than discovery. Now, that's a little bit misconstrued. They're definitely always behind the curve, at least 8 to 12 weeks behind. And they are controlling what music gets up close and personal first, because they do control and homogenize what goes out there. Because God forbid a Taylor Swift record comes out, who we're going to talk about in a minute. As soon as she gets a record out there, Cardigan, we're going to put that song right on the radio. Boom! Just like that. They only trust certain artists, and that's what the consultants think. And we're going to just follow what we think our research says. The research and their audience metric testing on a very small crowd. Just saying. Personality and host Zane Lowe, who's been around with Apple Music One since the inception in 2015, said the company wanted to do away with some of the traditional parts of radio, though he didn't get specific and put more creative power into the artist's hands. But we don't want the artists to have that kind of thing. We want the artists to do what they're good at. Bring us the music and then let them be interviewed so we can have somebody hosting the interviews and then have them come together. See, the idea of trying to have the musicians become DJs, they're not DJs. Okay? They're not. They're going to be guest DJs for a day, but to give them a weekly or a monthly or whatever kind of show, something recurring? No, it doesn't make sense. And that's the whole point of all this. Doesn't make sense to me at all. But that's what they were going to decide to do. Okay. While Apple's investing in radio, basically, I mean, it is radio in a sense, online radio. Well, it's not the same for NPR. NPR's kind of figured it out. And for the credit of NPR, it was a bit of a dying radio brand. But they figured out, they got into the podcasting realm pretty quickly. They've been around for a while on this. So they really have helped. And I give the credit as king of podcasts. I must give credit that NPR has definitely brought a presence and brought a lot of extra exposure to podcasting more than ever before. Because the same people that will listen to Audible books, they'll also listen to podcasts. Same idea. Instead of just long-term listening, they go to short-term listening, and they're willing to invest the time into it, especially if it's a show they like, especially if it's NPR, which doesn't need a live and local feel. It's a national or a globally prepared show, and it's easily taped, and it probably is taped for the program anyway. And to take the commercials out of it, even better. NPR's radio ratings have taken a nosedive. Half of the listening takes place in the car, but it was now with no commutes and social distancing, there's a steep decline. People, quote, who listen to NPR shows on the radio at home before the pandemic, by and large, still do. It's the NPR's own media correspondent, David Folkenflik, reported on July 15th, but, quote, many of those who listened on their commute have not rejoined from home, and that threatens to alter the terrain for NPR for years to come. And that goes for media across the board. We say the digital disruption. Well, the pandemic has also done its own disruption in a sense, and it has helped to escalate and to accelerate the digital disruption that we see all the time, because it just does. So even as a legacy platform's audience has declined, NPR says it's reaching more people than ever. The dip in radio listenership, 22%, has coincided with a number of people turning to NPR on virtually every other platform. So now more people are listening to NPR through their website, apps, live streams, smart speakers. 57 million people now listen or watch or read NPR content each week. They go digital to consume NPR, up 10% from this time last year. Thus, do we need the radio stations? if the radio stations are not performing, let's give those stations back to the public. If you want to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, those stations should be made available to the public. Without underwriting, have them become commercial stations. Have the whole FM band become commercial. Let's just make it like that. Or community-based, where underwriting can still be in play if you want to do that. I mean, whatever you feel like. If you want to feel like you want to do like that, you can. Now, in their study, they compared spring 2019 to spring 2020. Unique visitors to NPR.org increased 94%. Smart speaker on-demand audio increased 29%. Live stream listeners increased 39%. The app usage grew 22%. The NPR One app usage increased 19%. And NPR Music through YouTube had its increase of traffic by 90%. Now, NPR as a whole projected $12 to $15 million of coronavirus-related ad revenue losses, continues to compete alongside for-profit news outlets for a dwindling pool of ad dollars. So NPR's leaders have been reading the tea leaves. They see that younger generations overwhelmingly use the internet and their phones for audio. And they're not talking about cars. In other words, they knew the shift was coming. They just didn't know it would happen all at once. We'll just leave it there. And they need to figure out the fact that they need to say, okay, do they need the radio stations? Again, I don't think a complete defund. I don't think I never said anything about wanting to see a defunding of NPR. No. But what I wanted to see was the possibility of seeing NPR just take advantage of their podcasting. Why not? But they chose not to, for whatever reason. There's a whole lot more I could talk about in this story, but I'm going to leave it right there because there's a whole lot more that they actually go into, but it's just too much to go into explain here. But again, it's just what you see right now is going on. Now let's get into music. Well, actually, one more thing I want to get into, and this is the government side. And this is from Deadline.com. I think this was very interesting. And I don't mean nobody's really talking too much about it, but let's see. Justice Department has now a new antitrust chief, which is reorganizing with a new focus on telecom, media, and entertainment. So, Makan Del Rahim, is a chief of the Department of Justice's Antitrust Division. So again, they're reorganizing internal operations, shifting media and entertainment to a section devoted to telecommunications. So they're looking at plans designed to strengthen enforcement of competition laws. So Del Rahim says the realignment, quote, recognizes how technology trends have changed the way Americans consume financial services as well as media and communications services. It's going to make the antitrust division more efficient and more effective enforcing the antitrust laws. The changes come amid increasing scrutiny across the government of the power of tech platforms, which already are the focus of investigations by federal and state officials and on Capitol Hill. We know about the House subcommittee. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. So this kind of just is a response back to that. The telecom and broadband sections will be expanded to concentrate as well as on media and entertainment. Another section will be devoted to financial services, fintech and banking, and other will be solely to technology markets and platforms. So what this means to me is where the corporations are going to be more closely observed, more monitored. And that competition is going to be something they're going to try to go ahead and put into place. That monopolies are not going to be brought into place. Antitrust is going to be brought upon if necessary. And I think there's a lot of things that are going to be put in that need to be of concern to people when they get into this show. When they get into this setup for this plan that they're going to implement. So they talk about the issues involving some entertainment mergers, a recent settlement of claims that Live Nation violated terms of its merger with Ticketmaster. The new office will be led by Lawrence Riker. He served as counsel to the Assistant Attorney General. And one of the other stories you're going to look at is a federal judge recently gave the green light to DOJ's termination of the 71-year-old Paramount consent decrees. We've talked about that on the program. Restricting conduct between major studio distributors and exhibitors, movie theaters rather, and currently reviewing an even older decree that guides music licensing organizations like ASCAP and BMI. The Antitrust Division is also creating a civil conduct task force, which will work across the civil sections to identify areas that require investigation beyond pending merger reviews. So this is, again, trying to go and crack on and trying to confront issues in the involvement of deregulation and the constant swallowing up and consolidation of companies, of media and entertainment being controlled by only a couple of companies, which people need to be watching out for. And that's what they're concerned about. So I like this decision. I like the idea we're going to have more oversight on the corporates, the people that actually have control of the mainstream of content. You know, I mean, I like the fact we have more voices that come in, and if there's some breaking up of things, if that's what needs to be happening, we have to figure out how that is. A couple of things I want to bring up as well. Facebook is now allowing creators to earn money from online events. I want to give this story real quick. Owners of pages in 20 countries, including the U.S., UK, Brazil, Germany, and Australia, now meeting Facebook's partner monetization policies, can now start charging for online events. So if they can't go do live events, they can charge for performances virtually, online, via Facebook Live. Interesting. So back in April, Facebook was looking to go ahead and create a plan to allow creators to charge for live stream events, acknowledging at the time that during quarantine, people were increasingly turning to Facebook Live and Instagram Live for workout classes, cooking lessons, faith services. So the thing is, not just taking donations, but actually selling tickets. So the idea will be combining marketing, payment, and live video, paid online events, meaning the end-to-end needs of businesses. So obviously, trying to make money of what you do as an entertainer, music, entertainment, whatever it is, that's the idea. That's a pretty good thing that they're trying to do. Now, if people are using Facebook Pay to get this done, creators will receive 100% of the price that guests pay after taxes and fees. Purchases made on a mobile device through Apple or Google or Android, they'll get 70% of the price guests pay because the mobile provider will take 30% of the revenue. They get their take. So there you go. All right, a couple things I want to bring up here in terms of music that caught my eye. Rolling Stone, once again, they talked about some music industry trends right now during quarantine and how they've been putting things together. So artists from Cardi B and Neil Young to Taylor Swift and Melissa Etheridge are using the crisis as a chance to rethink their business models. Spotify as well is launching its artist fundraising pick feature, helping to alleviate the lack of touring income coming the way of artists, enabling fans to donate additional money to acts on Spotify via PayPal or Cash App. And that's one of the things they have right now. Neil Young is brought up where he has his archive. He has set up a direct subscription service offering digitized content from the past, plus live streams and high-resolution audio of his catalog. And right now, he's earning some $600,000 per year direct from his fan base via the project. And he spent $20,000 to remove the ability for fans to log into his archives via Facebook and Google, doing it on anti-corporate political grounds, but his leap away from relying on social media giants and towards a relationship with paying fans. Cardi B announcing last week on Instagram she would launch a $4.99 subscription per month on OnlyFans. Now, she did make mention of knowing the song that she has now that came out, which is now the number one song in the country, according to Billboard's Hot 100 for the week ending August 22nd. WAP. She will not be showing pussy, titties, and ass on her OnlyFans account. She'll be offering a behind-the-scenes footage from video shoots and other straight-up real-life content. And if she's successful at convincing even a small percentage of her 72 million-plus Instagram followers, she'll be pulling in millions more dollars each month. Then you have others, Laura Marling and Melissa Etheridge, forging meaningful business models out of playing into a camera lens. So Melissa Etheridge has launched Etheridge TV, a pay-gated, video-based subscription service, broadcasting through her superfans 5 days a week, making $50,000 every month. To around about 1,000 subscribers who pay $50 a month for full access. God, that's expensive, man. Live streaming coming really, really big, they're saying as well. You have startups coming up, Instagram Phenom Versus. You have Caffeine, which inked a multi-year deal with Drake in February to bring the Ultimate Rap League to its platform. You have a white label platform called Maestro, now working with artists like Katy Perry and Tim McGraw. And then you have a bunch of others. Live Nation's also getting into the mix because they've also been live streaming during the lockdown. They have gotten more than 67 million fans watching over 18,000 concerts and festivals in the last 3 months. Then you have the rise of the indies, thanks to the UK, and a revival of D2C, direct-to-consumer physical sales. And that's thanks to Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift, she pushed out her album Folklore, a folk album basically. And she offered also no less than 8 deluxe versions of her album, which were released on CD and vinyl. And all were available week 1 of her release. Made a quick album bomb and kind of starting to fall by the wayside down her third week. 627,000 units sold in week 1. So again, she just sells records. She's not a singles artist necessarily, and she's not so much about streaming, but she's big on selling albums. Her fans are big about it. So let's get back to Cardi B real quick, because the music video that came out with her and Megan Thee Stallion, because of the fact that now the song has become the #1 song on Billboard Magazine's Hot 100 list on their chart this week, got everybody talking. The Lantern, interesting story, they decided to go ahead and really take into things. This is looks like it's the Ohio State blog or their publication. And they decided they were going to say, Ashley Kimball writes the story, "Grab a bucket and a mop. Sexism in the music industry is making a mess." Now, I did a story about WAP on my When I'm Not Podcasting podcast, which you can also find the video series over on my YouTube feed, youtube.com/JBRASCO951. And of course, you can also find the podcast available wherever you find your podcast, but also you can go and look for the link. Go to other KOP projects at broadcasterspodcast.com. You can find it there, find out more, or go to kingofpodcasts.com. I also have it there as well. So, WAP was released 2 weeks ago to the day as I record. So again now, the most weekly streams in 2020, #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and there has been some notable people that have complained about the song and have been critical. CeeLo Green, the artist, and we did a song called Fuck You, but he's being critical, and conservative political commentator Ben Shapiro are focusing on the song's impressive success and are focusing less on the success, more on the provocative nature. Which, of course, if you're going to be like some puritanized, sacrosanct, sanctimonious type individual, then yeah, you're going to go ahead and bash the music and the sexism of the record. But again, these two women know what they're doing. They wanted to do this record. It's on them. So what? No big deal. So with this said, CeeLo Green made comments to Far Out Magazine. He discussed the female rappers and comparing their salacious gesturing to Nicki Minaj. He said he understands promoting independent women and sexual expression, but questions at what cost. Ben Shapiro read aloud some of the song's vulgar lyrics. Well, he did censor them, mocking the words and sarcastically calling the song deeply empowering. Sarcastic. Further, his criticism of the sarcastic list of things the song does not do to women. And Shapiro says, and I'm not going to try to do it, saying it fast like he would, but it's not demeaning to women in any way. It doesn't turn women into sex objects. It doesn't make men think of women in a purely sexual fashion. It is women empowering themselves. It is super empowerment. Bad. Ben. That's what he is. Just saying. So the question is WAP a new level of raunchiness in today's music industry, or has sex been present in music for years, and the idea of women expressing their sexuality is too jarring for critics like Shapiro and Green? Well, it's been out there for a long time. It doesn't make a difference. We've had graphic and sexual music for a long time. I know going to the nightclubs in the 90s and the early 2000s, we had more than enough songs that were way more graphic and explicit than this. But we haven't heard it lately, but here we go. And we've heard a lot more from men than we have from women. That's what also brings a little bit of a shock factor, but I don't see it. I'm a bit desensitized myself to all this kind of music, so it doesn't make much of a difference. Just saying. Elena Cruz Lopez, a PhD student in musicology, said women have incorporated sex into their music for a long time now. Quote, I think it has to do with people not being comfortable still with women expressing their sexuality in such an explicit way. They go back and use a blues singer as a reference. Lucille Bogan did a version of a song called Shave 'Em Dry in 1924. The lyrics include, got something between my legs, make a dead man come. And her other songs don sexually explicit themes as well, according to All About Blues Music's website. Cruz Lopez does not think people's negative reactions towards sexually explicit songs from female rappers will change anytime soon, but having an open mind about the topic will help. The more sex-positive people there are, I think the better things will be. Ohio State alumnus Nick Myers says he likes the song and is unbothered by the lyrics. He says, quote, music nowadays has definitely got some vulgar parts to it and some strong language, but I think that's totally fine. It's just somebody expressing themselves. A guy can sleep with however many women he wants, but then if a girl does that, she's called a slut or something, but there's no name for that for a guy. Well, gigolo. It's gigolo. That's your answer, bro. That's your answer there, Nick. Thank you. So anyway, somebody in the comments in this particular story talked about how Malcolm McLaren, who was best known for promoting the Sex Pistols, he says, cash from chaos. Well said on that point. So there you go. That's what I have for you tonight in terms of the headlines. I want to go ahead and now pivot over to my interview with Jim Costa, part 2 of my interview with him. Again, we talk about video marketing. We talk about video best practices, filmmaking, photography, and so much more. Let me go and conclude part 2 of my interview with Jim Costa of Jim Costa Films here on the Broadcasters Podcast. Let me move along to another thing here. The Neiman Journalism Lab. They reported that radio and podcast production teams around the country have begun implementing COVID-19 preparedness plans. They tend to revolve around shifting to remote work arrangements, limiting in-office time to essential production personnel, suspending non-essential travel, maintaining a good flow of communication with staff to keep everybody on top of the latest developments, best practices, further information resources. Now, we've seen all this content from people's homes. Like I said, the Jimmy Fallons, the Jimmy Kimmels, it's all going on where they're trying to do this. Let's go ahead and show themselves, as opposed to them being professional on a set, they're trying to show that they're showing some purpose that they can, doing things for viewers to make them feel like they're just like the people that are watching them. They're also in their confinement. Celebrities getting on the same way. They're showing, see, we're just like you. We're just like you people, you little people on the other side of the screen. So my thing is, what do you think about the fact that we're seeing this kind of effect? I mean, I just think it's a little bit, it's fine. I don't see why they didn't go ahead and just try to keep, just replay content and just kind of show some normalcy. I'm a little bit miffed about the fact that they want to see these shows continue to try to do their content from home. It's the narrative of trying to say, yes, we're just like you. We want you to be in touch with us. Try to keep a touch point of staying connected and engaged to their audience because it'll help them in the long run. I think it's just them trying to put an olive branch out. But I also think there's a little bit of insincerity because you could just, does it really help to see other people in the same situation as you? I think you want to see your late night hosts, your other hosts. You want to be able to have your escape. So just replay shows of previous. Why not do that instead of, doing this? What do you think?
Well, you bring an interesting point. I think on the one hand, they probably could do it in the studio without the audience, right? Of course, because you can't have everyone there. Now, it's not the same thing live because you get the reaction with the host and the audience. I get, but I do respect that they are doing their best to keep people apart. You know what I mean? Because if you know people in the industry, I don't care if there's no studio audience, there's still a lot of people on a set that you never see that are in close contact. So they could be, in a way, it's smart because it keeps them from getting sick, all it takes is one person and the whole studio could be infected, or exposed. So, and I've been in a control room, there's 10 people crammed in this tiny little space.
Right.
So there's no way to be apart. So I get that they are trying to help their people. And I also understand your point about we are like you and we are not like you. In some ways, celebrities are. They're people. I mean, I've met my share, as have you. But they are like us, and that they have homes and families and all that. But they're also not like us, because when you're a celebrity, I mean, you are recognized on the street. Nobody's coming up to me asking for my autograph. You get special treatment. You get the A-list way of life, as it were. So I don't think that. I mean, celebrities, they share some in common with most of us, but they're still above us.
I still feel like it's only going to last for so long as well, because I don't think I'm going to see Jimmy Fallon seeing his kids messing around while he's trying to do his show, taping beforehand. I don't know if that's going to sustain for a long time. I don't think people can just go ahead and say, oh, you know what? Okay, monologue is just kind of like there's no laugh track, nothing to go with it. The guests you might have on, I think if you're going to do it, you should just reformat your show. I mean, okay, so then bring on guests, take out the monologue, and do some other things that kind of help out in a different way. And I haven't seen all of them do that. I know Conan O'Brien has like a better setup, and some others have done better with that. But again, you're also at the behest of these Hollywood screenwriters, joke writers, and people that are production staff that they have no clue of being in this environment. They are working with so much higher falutin equipment that they're going to bring themselves down to this level. It's embarrassing to them, because I don't think they know what to do. Like, they're not YouTubers. They're not people that do content creation. We know what our environment is. We know what our resources are. We know what we can work with. And I think for them to have to take a step down, it hurts them in the long run, I think.
Well, you may have a point. I think whether or not that comes to pass depends on how long we're going to be stuck like this.
Yeah.
The president, he was wishy-washy. The 15 days, I think, ended today, I think.
Now they extended the 30 days, all the way to the end of next month. Yep.
Yes, right, because that's new. And what's going to happen in April 30th? I mean, maybe it'll go till May 30th. We don't know.
But, without going into the whole details, there are certain things that I'm being hoped for. The one thing is, this little side note, obviously this will be like antiquated by the time people hear this in like 6 months. But I am hopeful that the FDA, when they put the emergency declaration about hydrochloroquine and azithromycin, having that as a possible therapeutic, will not be the vaccine, because that's probably like at least another year away. At least we're hearing promise about that too. I just saw that as well. Johnson & Johnson's already getting ready to put it into trial. Maybe by the first of next year, we might actually have that out for people to go ahead and take. So there's hopeful things to go on right there. So I'll give that as a side note. But in the ultimate effect, I think while we're doing this, I just think there's just certain people that, if you're going to play along with this, yes, let it be experimental. But, maybe work with some other people that probably have done this before. Like, this is where maybe you're out of your real well. You should go to the people that do this best. That's a thought I was having as you were talking about that. Maybe they need to have like a consultant that's a YouTuber. Yes. Someone with 1 million subscribers or something who does this, blogs, every week. It doesn't matter what format. There's plenty of kids on there doing fashion or doing different things, not necessarily comedy shows, but someone who understands the medium and can help you increase your show to the level of their show on YouTube. So you maintain your broadcast standards like you were talking about if it was in the studio and these were normal times. Jim, think about if you're in Hollywood. God, could you imagine if you had the chance to say, hey, you know what? Rosie O'Donnell wanted to do her show. She's coming back to do her show again. And she did. She brought back Mary Manilow. So it's like, yeah, come spend like an hour with me. Come to my home. Fix up my studio. Like, help me set this up real quick. And in like, 2 hours, you can have like, boom, there you got it. Everything's set. You need to buy equipment. Okay, I got it. Here we go. Boom, 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 boom. And you can do it on your own. And here you go. Nice webcam, nice microphone. Here's a nice little backdrop for your set. And you're like a YouTuber. And it's like overnight, easy to do. And it'll look good on camera because we see people that do that all the time. Great response. I always see response videos. And they're so nicely well done. They look clean. They look good. And that's people. If there were people like that, if you were people like you in Hollywood right now that could help these people out, there'd be a whole new business about this. Consulting for people that are high end to do these type of videos, to be able to do social media friendly videos.
Well, good. Send a link to Jimmy Fallon so he hears us, when you release it. So, and to all those guys, Conan and all of them, and, they could take a lesson from guys like David Letterman, or Zach Galifianakis with his two ferns, I mean, that's about as basic a show.
I'm telling you, yeah, you're right. It's very smart, very smartly done. You can't knock that. I mean, he's like, that's pretty good. I do like all that. All right, let me move along here. Cisco's annual internet report. They say that this is for the period of 2018 projected in 2023. Videos will soon make up more than 80% of all online consumer traffic. Wow. With the addition of platform features like Facebook Live and Instagram Stories, viewers have the opportunity to get an inside look into the day-to-day goings on in people's lives and businesses. You have an Instagram photography, videography account and a Facebook account with sample projects on it. Now, I see the benefit of video posting on social media, including on Twitter. But it takes a lot of prep and a paid platform from what I can find. There's nothing that's like a freebie that's out there to post in a very pretty, efficient way. So what's your expertise to listeners? Like for myself, if I want to be able to cut video clips or snippets, whatever it might be, and make those postable on a regular basis, what do you recommend?
Well, I got to be honest with you. This is a problem I had for a long time. Okay. And I have tried to bust this out. It's a lot of mistakes. I honestly, dude, I made every mistake that you could make in this.
Yeah.
What I have found works best is, because I'm a YouTuber, I work with a crew and doing my pro work, but on my YouTube work, it's me doing everything, shooting, editing, the whole 9 yards. I found that a 30-second to 60-second snippet is the best. For cross promoting, and I'm doing it all myself. So when I put it on YouTube, the whole video is uploaded, whatever. That's nothing. But what I'm talking about is my Facebook page or my business page or my Instagram or Twitter. I tweet all that stuff out when it's released. It used to be automatic, which was nice. YouTube changed that. So I'm doing it manually. It takes about 2 hours. I do a release. I have all the back end stuff done on YouTube, and I hit publish, right? So the video is now live for the public. That's, if you know YouTube, you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Then I take the link, and it's usually to the playlist it's in, because I want people to stay on my channel, not the individual video. But so I give them the playlist link, and it's the most recent, so it's at the top. And that link goes on everything. I mean everywhere. It goes on my personal Facebook page, my business company Facebook page, my private Facebook group. It goes on Twitter, it goes on LinkedIn, it goes on Instagram. Of course, on Instagram, you have to copy and paste the link. I put but you can put a 1-minute video on IG. Now, I'm not talking about IG stories. I'm talking about IG, the regular.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. So I will post, after I post everything, I do a little snippet, like a 1-minute, 30-second to 1-minute video, one relevant point from the video. Like today, I'm going to talk about, I did a video recently on 3-point lighting, right? Very basic video. That if you do, it's the first thing you learn in film school, in lighting. But if you're a newbie, newbies need to learn. There's nothing wrong with skipping, with not doing the high-end cinematic look stuff in terms of lighting, when you have to start somewhere. So you teach people 3-point lighting, and your podcast will look really good, or your webcast will look really good, right? That's I'm using 3-point.
What if you're repurposing content? Because you're basically telling me that you're recreating original content and you're basically throwing out a teaser. But
yes, that's right. That's right.
So I want to be able to do it where I could repurpose what I've already put out, take a clip that's just like as you see like a promo for like a radio show or even for TV, it's something that's taken from the show and embedded into like a wraparound. Okay, coming up, sure. Like it was just I see certain programs that'll have the little meters going along in the background. It's like a podcast, but then you're just putting it under like a graphic. And maybe some other stuff that's in between to help add that into the mix. But I want to be able to have something that's easy enough to go ahead and put it together and then post quickly. I haven't found anything that really does that for me without having to pay a pretty good price for that. Or
there really isn't a free. I haven't found anything really super good free that'll do that. iTunes. I'm not iTunes. I'm sorry. iMovie will get the job done, but you got to have some editing skills. iMovies, you can get it comes on your phone now for free. If you get like 11.
Well, I'm not an iPhone guy, man. I used to have Windows Movie Maker that probably was easier, but they got rid of it. I was like, I guess for Android and for Windows users, it's going to be tough. But I mean, for iPhone, it's probably easier, or iOS, probably easier. Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, if anybody who knows anything about Mac knows they were built for creatives from the beginning, from people who were doing graphic design, and I mean, I actually started editing on the Mac in 2001. So they were when Final Cut 2 came out, version 2. So I've been using it ever since, and I use Premiere too. But the truth of the matter is, to do what you want to do, to have any sort of production value, professionalism, you got to spend some money. I think the cheapest way you could, as a newbie, you could do it, or a non-pro type person, is get Premiere, get the cloud, the Adobe Cloud, just Premiere, and just on a monthly basis, so that you're only spending like $30 a month. And they're actually doing a discounted now. You don't need the whole suite. I mean, After Effects is great. I know how to use it. It'll do what you want, but it's got a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
And you get Photoshop. I use Photoshop all the time for graphics because they're really clean. If it doesn't have to have motion and and all this other stuff. But if you want to do, the truth is, you're right. You got to spend some money. But
and there's there's headliners, there's those that, like, if you're putting on a podcast, you'll see like a transcript that's going on, or the same thing, you'll see a video that'll have a little bit of subtitles underneath like that, so that if you're not listening to it, you're going to still have something that, like you said earlier, like, oh, okay, when you're watching a movie, you know what's going on without having to hear what's being said. Same idea. And I see a lot of that being done, but it's going to take some work to get there. It's not the easiest to do unless you're completely focused on doing them. But for me, I have other things to do. I got to record podcasts, produce them, schedule them, book them, prep them. So the time to go and be able to do that, I only have so much time to post. That's where I'm trying to go and cut that time down.
I understand that. And right now, there's your idea for $1 million. You got to make it yourself. But I'll tell you, speaking about the subtitles, YouTube, I speak of YouTube again because of my channel, but they will do subtitles automatically. Mm-hmm. But they're not quite 100% accurate. They're maybe 90% right.
Yeah.
And they don't have any, for some reason, there's no punctuation. Like, it's one long sentence. Yeah. I don't know. I don't understand why that is. I mean, they have the
it's just your AI doing it. It's just like closed captioning, but it's an AI doing it, and it's like the same programming they use for Google Translate is probably what they're using here. So it's not bad. It's not perfect.
Right, but that's one of the things I do on the back end of all my channels is I'll go back and fix that. It takes time. One of the reasons I script out my programs, in part for doing it right, is for that purpose, because you can import the script and it's pretty accurate. I do ad lib on my scripts a little because I have thoughts that come to mind or ideas. So it's not, but I can fix a few sentences here and there. But that is a way to help. And I can repurpose that text as a blog later, or put it on my YouTube, or part of the teaser, So it's a lot of work. I mean, running a YouTube channel on top of, having a career and all that, it's a lot of work, dude. Just like you're doing it with your podcast and trying to do it. But you got to stay committed, And I run my channel like if I was running a TV station, right? Mm-hmm. So I have consistent. Every Wednesday is a new release, at least one to three, depending upon what I've got going on. Every Wednesday by noon, I got it. And I've had people, I was flying to do a shoot a month ago in Vegas on a Wednesday, and I got messages, hey, where happened to your release? Like, serious, people have come to expect it. But think about it. If you have your favorite TV shows, doesn't matter whether it's network or HBO or whatever, they're on every night. Every week on the same night at the same time, and your channel, if you run a YouTube channel, you have to think about it in the same way. People know that Homeland's on Sunday night on Showtime or whatever. They want to see it, so you gotta do it. At the same time, this is the same thing. You know what I'm saying? My channel, I operate in the same way, and so I do all that back end stuff early. I've had assistants and I pay people to do it in the past, but honestly, I found that it's kind of like, the expression, it's hard to find good help.
Yeah.
I found that they they kind of took shortcuts, and I don't like to see typos in the text of this. It irritates the hell out of me. It's like, I gave you the script. It should be right.
Yeah.
So I found that it's just easier for me to do. And I have a system, and I can kind of do it. I can read through what Google automatically does and just make the corrections. There are some things it always does wrong. I have a cheat sheet, that I provide people to teach them photography settings and video settings for their DSLR. Yeah. And it always puts cheat sheet, CHI. I don't know why it won't put cheat sheet. But it puts cheat sheet. So I look for that. I got to fix that.
Now, I want to unpack a little bit of what you were saying right there. For me, so the content, I agree with you about. When it comes to YouTube, it is like a TV channel. You should kind of have everything on a regular schedule kind of thing. With right now, what I've been doing, I'm trying to do a thing where people can expect basically one of my programming is my podcast that I do regularly, it just goes through Spreaker and I can get it pushed out through YouTube quickly. I add a new graphic up there, so there's a new thumbnail for it. It looks good and it's consistent. So I have that programming regularly scheduled. And then I have an umbrella show, which I do, and that's usually weekends or just kind of randomly where I have time for it. And then what I'm trying to do is I now have interviews from this show, like full interviews from this program. I'm putting out there after the fact, so I could just have more content to put. But my only thing is to be able to go ahead and promote it. And that's where I'm coming from with that is the time I'm doing to create all this content, the bigger end of the content is trying to find the time to promote it through the social media outlets and being able to have that tease to get people to go ahead and come over and watch the whole thing. That's that's the one thing I'm trying to figure out from there. Let me get one more question for you, Jim. Facebook Live videos. Now, they receive 10 times more comments than a regular video, and video tweets have 6 times higher chance of getting retweeted than a photo. So it widely broadens your reach, connecting you with a larger audience and giving you the opportunity to share more valuable content. So more contents mean higher engagement. Higher engagement means more viewers. How do you determine where you think your content is best to stream or best to post and where?
Okay, that takes research. And it takes a lot of research. And it's not something you can post once and expect to get right. And I guarantee you it's going to be trial and error. That is where, when I do social media campaigns with like the advertising agency that I produce for, the videos, I do their TV and radio commercials and their social media. We spend an enormous amount of time on the back end of analytics, of whether it's like Facebook pixels that you put on their website so you can see who clicked through, or if you spend, or it's YouTube's analytics or Google analytics. You can look like if you have Google ads and you click, you can see how many impressions you had, how many click throughs, how long they watched the video, and all of it. I mean, the purpose of marketing is of anything, whether it's you're selling a product or you're promoting your channel, you want to get people to get their attention, get them interested enough to remember who you are. You want to get them interested enough to take action and spend money, right? So you want them to see your ad, like what you have to sell, let's say, or service or whatever it is you're doing. You want them to keep coming back, and more importantly, you want them to spend money and be happy with your product, right? That's the purpose of any marketing, in a nutshell. Your channel is the same. So Facebook has really, they're going after, that's the bottom line. They are going after YouTube in an aggressive manner. They have raised their prices a lot in the last year. The prices for their ads went up. So the cost per click went up. You used to be able to get a penny or two per click, which is pretty damn cheap. Yeah. It's like 7 or 8 cents, which don't seem like much. But, a big company does a national campaign, 1 million clicks, that's a lot of money, Oh, exactly. That's 1,000,008 cents, I mean, you're talking about a big budget. Yeah. Which, for the Joe average guy, you and me, that I can't spend that kind of money, So, but the point is, I'm trying to make is you have to do split testing. You have to study your analytics and understand. And so what that means is, let's say you go in the back end of a Facebook ad, any ad. If you're scrolling through Facebook and you see all your friends' feeds, and you see your news and the things you like, and every once in a while you see one that says sponsored. Okay, that's an ad that someone paid to put in front of you. That person can then go in the back end and see how many impressions. That means how many times did it show up in your feed? Okay?
Yep.
And then they can look and say, okay, how many people clicked on the ad itself? Because you get a sentence or two, but it says like learn more. There's a little button, right? So then they'll tell you how many people did that. And then you can also look and see, okay, did they read my ad and click like go to my website or buy my product or whatever, your call to action is. They call it, it's known as a call to action. It means get someone to, come to you. So you can look at that. And I absolutely can't stress to you enough how important it is for you as a marketer of whatever it is, your product, service, your YouTube channel, whatever you're doing. You have to understand these analytics, they're called, this data that's in there to find out what kind of use you have. Because if you don't, you're wasting your money. You might as well seriously throw it in the fire. Give it away on the street.
All right. Well, we're got to leave it there. Jim, thank you so much for being on. Jim Costa, again, photographer, video producer, YouTube video blogger. So on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it's all Jim Costa Films, one word. And is there anywhere else we should go and make mention of, or anything that we should be looking out for? Any upcoming video series you're working on right now? I know you said you were working on the COVID-19 preparedness. What else can we be looking for?
My YouTube channel, I'm in the middle of a whole series on lighting, about a dozen videos, all on lighting. They start easy, basic 3-point lighting introduction. I get all the way up to teaching you how to do cinematic lighting. If you're a videographer or filmmaker, that's coming up. And I've got a series on audio topics too that's down the road. I'm working on those scripts now, but that's, like towards the summer.
I remember one time I had a video project I was working on because I'm working with there was a production company that showed us a thing. Did you ever hear of the idea of, and this is always wanted to have ideas of doing tricks with film, but I'm sure video programs already do this, but in your days of doing video, I know we didn't talk about your work in Motor Trend and all the other stuff you're doing, not enough time, but did you ever do anything where you could rig a camera? Is this true? Using pantyhose and putting it over the lens of a camera to create that fuzzy, like film type look? Because I remember one company doing that for movies and making it look like a film when they didn't have film type equipment. That
is true. You can do that. And you know what that works for? You know what's really funny? You have a senior citizen who's on there who's kind of wrinkly and stuff.
Yeah.
It gives that sort of, you ever see those 1940s movies, not the film noir, but the glamour type photography shot? It gives you that sort of look. You blow it out. A little bit too much light. You open up the aperture just a little too much, and it gives you that blown out look. But it actually takes years off your face.
Right.
Of wrinkles. It's
photoshopping, right?
Yeah, it beats photoshopping. But just a quick advice. I know you got to go. I don't recommend doing that because whenever you shoot video with any kind of effects or anything like that, you're stuck with it.
Oh, no, you don't know. I'd rather have the original look, everything clean, and then do stuff to it. But that's why I'm saying it's most important with audio. Please record it right the first time. That's what I always talk about. Add
stress. There you go. You're absolutely right. Tell all your guests you're doing your own podcast. Have it clean. Do all your effects. Do your junk later. There's audio, video, doesn't matter.
Agreed.
As long as you have the original, you can always go back. What if you don't like it? What if you get home and you shoot? Oh my God, this is terrible. No. You're stuck, There
you go. Jim Costa, thanks for being on the Broadcasters Podcast.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and stay safe in these times, okay?
You got it, man. And very glad to have Jim Costa join me here on the Broadcasters Podcast. And if there are any interviews that you'd like me to go ahead and have with anybody in particular you think I should talk to here on the program, by all means, email me, kingofpodcasts@yahoo.com, or just go ahead and find me on any social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, @King of Podcasts. That's how you find me. And also, that's all you got to do. All the places you can go and find me. And of course, make sure to go and subscribe. If you're watching the video, please subscribe, share, and like. Do all the good stuff. Help out. I really would appreciate it. And until next week, remember, content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands.
Thank you for listening to the Broadcasters Podcast, presented by broadcasterspodcast.com and kingofpodcasts.com. The Broadcasters Podcast is brought to you by kingofpodcasts.com/Amazon.
If Amazon is good enough for the king of podcasts, it most certainly is good for you. kingofpodcasts.com/Amazon. And don't forget to check out the King of Podcasts wrestling program. The Wrestling is Real podcast, exclusively at kingofpodcasts.com.